Hello everybody. Really warm welcome to you all this afternoon. I hope you had a lovely lunch. I really want to thank MS Ireland for inviting me again to speak on Your Brain on Tech. I spoke last year at the conference and I really enjoyed it, and what really inspired me was meeting with lots of people who are living with MS and hearing their stories and their journeys, and that's what really inspires me to be the therapist I am today. So my name is Emer Duffy and I'm a specialist OT and yoga therapist. I have a company called Living Life Therapy, which is based in Dublin, but I see people all over the country and sometimes see them for Skype consultations as well. So a little bit about me. As I said, I'm an OT and a yoga therapist, and I specialize in brain and mental health. So I blend occupational therapy and cognitive rehabilitation, which is based in psychology. And then, if applicable, I will apply some yoga therapy to that as well. If people are interested, I realize not everybody's into yoga, but a lot of people are, so sometimes I will offer that. And my mission in life really is to empower people to find their own wellness tools through therapeutic engagement, education, and mind and body practices. As I think a lot of the presenters here today, we want to demystify brain health for all ages. So I work across a lot of different conditions. I work with people with MS, Parkinson's, brain injury, early dementia. And hopefully I would like to expand my research and do more research into brain health and mind and body practices that really make real functional life enhancements, so that can actually help you to live your life the way you want it to. So the overview of today, I can imagine there's quite a lot of sleepy brains in here at this time. You're just after lunch, and you've had a lot of information, really good information this morning. It's been fantastic. So I'm going to try and keep it quite light this afternoon. I'm not going to give you a lot of references. There will reference some things, but everything I speak about is evidence-based. And if there's something in particular you want to find a specific reference for, please keep in touch and ask me afterwards. But I do need to give you some information, and I'm going to introduce to you the Better Everyday Brain program that I run. And I'm also going to introduce the importance of having knowledge of your brain baseline so that you can effectively train your brain. I'm going to outline the tech and non-tech ways to challenge your brain. And I'm going to highlight about tech-life balance as well, which I think everybody needs to consider in this age of technology. But we're going to do some evidence-based practicals as well today to keep it light and keep it interesting. We're going to try out a visual strategy for your memory. We're going to try 3 minutes of mindful breathing. I'm going to try a chair-based yoga sequence with you. And also, we're all going to set one SMART goal for your brain health, whether you are living with MS or not. I think what really struck me over the last 2 days being here is that we all need to mind our brain. Without brain health, there is no health. So hopefully we can set a goal together, and I can give you some tips on how to make a good goal. So the Better Everyday Brain program that I run with people isn't anything new as such. I'm using what the evidence base is out there to help to kind of package a program with people and using my own language and hopefully making it accessible. The essence really is that every brain can change at any age, and there's 6 elements to it that I will discuss with people: knowledge, challenge, movement, nourish, socialize, and calm. So it's usually an 8 to 12-week education and strategy program that I do with people, either in their homes or face-to-face or via Skype. And it's to support people to adopt healthy brain habits. So it's, as I said, it's based on the current evidence base. And the concept really is about balance across all areas. So a little bit of everything every day to keep your brain happy. So what I tend to find when I'm working with people with long-term health conditions is that they'll be pretty good in one section and then kind of ignore another section. So they might be very good at the movement, but maybe don't give the time to calm their brain or think about nourishing their brain. We try to use fun and novel activities because we know that the brain likes novel, interesting things. And we will each week structure a SMART goal. And family involvement is important as well. Usually they may set a SMART goal in regards to their brain health as well. So it's about talking about brain wellness, brain health, as opposed to brain illness. So today I'm going to talk to you about the kind of the tech and non-tech ways in regards that we can challenge our brain. So first of all, we need to talk about how to know your brain in order to train your brain. We're going to talk about the elephant in the room, that's computer-trained braining. And also we're going to talk about some brain healthy hobbies. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about yoga for brain health. I know Trish gave a great presentation earlier on today about exercise for brain health, and I'm going to specify just a little bit about how yoga works on your brain. Right. And I'm going to talk a little bit about calm as well, so meditations or brain breaks and flow activities and how important they are for your brain. But these can all link in with nourishing and socialize as well, because I think when we're exercising or when we're taking time to be mindful, we're probably making better healthy food choices. And also a lot of these activities you can do as a social activity. You can go to the exercise classes as were outlined, or you could do a craft group. So they can involve all elements of the Better Everyday Brain program. So let's talk about knowledge a little bit. And we all know that knowledge is empowerment, and that's why everybody is here today, to learn how to manage their own brain health. And we know that brain symptoms are particularly kind of an invisible symptom in MS, but not all people with MS will experience brain skill symptoms. And they're very variable. There's no kind of clear and cut guidelines as to how they will react with people. And they could be present subtly, even at the early stages of disease. So this could present as kind of mental fatigue and overload, that you may not be able to kind of manage your workload as much, or manage when things don't go right. So you could be managing your day pretty good, but it could just take one spanner in the works to kind of create a mental overload and mental fatigue. And there doesn't seem to be, from the research, any relationship with physical symptoms. So often people will come to me and they say, oh, my memory, I just hate my memory, it's really bad, it's my worst enemy. So I suppose one thing I'm trying to emphasize to people is that memory gets blamed for an awful lot of problems. And often it's that we're not attending or processing the information. So I want you to maybe think about approaching your brain skills and your brain health with the beginner's mind, and know that you can improve it. You have going to have loads of tools by the end of the day to really improve your brain health. So a few of the common brain symptoms in MS would be attention, so your ability to focus and filter out distractions. Your information processing speed, we all know about that, that's speed and the capacity of processing information. It's often a very common symptom. And we know that in MS, the difficulty with memory is encoding the memory. So it's getting the memory to stick in your brain. So once it's in, it's pretty good, but we just need to find ways to stick it in there. Language and executive functions often comes up as well, not as often, but sometimes, and that will be having difficulties with finding words, and executive functions would be our higher level skill functions like our planning, organising, and decision making. So what I'm going to try to do today to stick the information in your brain, and this is my new favourite brain picture. I love brain pictures, but this one I found over the last few days with loads of post-it notes on it. So I want you to try and imagine that we're trying to stick stuff into the brain, and we try to find fun and novel ways to do that. And if you take anything from this presentation today, that's probably one of the most important things. So I'm going to ask you for the next little while to pay attention as best you can to minimize distractions. So maybe, put the phone away, or just try and as best you can to attend. I'm going to try and speak slowly to assist with your processing. So do tell me if I'm speaking too fast. And ask people if they are speaking too fast in daily life to slow down. It will really help. I'm going to ask you to make visual images in your head, because again, that will help it to be a little bit stickier. And then I'm going to ask you to rehearse the information in your head as well. I'm going to ask you some intermittent questions to reflect on over the next few slides. If you don't know, just don't guess, I'll tell you. Because sometimes if we guess, we remember the wrong information. But when we continually ask ourselves questions, it helps us to consolidate the memory in our mind. Okay, so let's do a reflection to start. What are the 3 most common brain symptoms in MS? So I want you to have a little bit of a think on that one. So they're attention, information processing, and memory. So I would think of that as AIM, A-I-M. So helping that to stick in my memory. Because I have to work with lots of different conditions, so they all have different elements that might be a little bit more prevalent, so I try to make up little rhymes and words like that. I really embody what I do, so to teach this to people, I really have to use it myself. So what do we need to do to memories in MS? Remember that brain? What did he have on it? Stick them in. Yeah, exactly. We need to make them sticky and encode them in. And can you improve your brain skills symptoms? I hope everybody knows the answer to this one. Yes, definitely. Super. Okay. So let's start with knowledge. We need to figure out what our brain baseline is so that we know where we're starting from. We need to know when we work most effectively. So you are the expert in your brain health. And these key questions will help you to understand what your brain baseline is like. So when is your best time of day? Are you an early bird or a night owl? Or maybe you fluctuate throughout the day. But asking yourself this question is really important, because if you are going to do some brain-intense activities, you need to know what time of the day is best for you. What's your strengths? So would you be more of a numbers person than a words person? Or would you prefer creative activities over logic activities? So you want to think about kind of cross-training the brain, just like we do our body. And just similar to kind of what Trish was saying earlier on about strength and aerobic and resistance exercise. We can't just stick with one element, and we tend to prefer the one that our brain is more comfortable in. So I'm going to continually ask you to think about just edging your way out of your comfort zone and doing things a little bit differently and a little bit more novel. So asking yourself sometimes, what tasks do you need assistance with? And do you know your learning style is quite important when you're looking at brain training and activities. So thinking about, are you more of a visual learner? Are you more of an auditory learner? Do you learn through hearing things? Or do you have to actually do something to learn it? Some of the need-to-know neuroscience that I would always give people at the start when I'm working with them on brain health would be about neuroplasticity. And I know that Gavin would have spoken about this earlier on together. But it really underpins learning, remembering things, and behaviour change. But effort and dedication is required. If you're going to take on any new brain health habit, you're going to have to put in some effort, and it's going to take practice. You want to choose activities to build that cognitive reserve, that lifelong learning and maintaining our roles. And I like to think of this as buffering our brain. So we're giving ourselves a buffer to kind of protect our brain. Myth of multitasking. What do you think about that one? Can we multitask? Depends. Yeah, there's always a big debate on that one. So really, we know that in MS, attention and processing speed is affected. So if you're going to do something concentrated, you're better off doing it monotasked, really. Like if it's important work, if you're filling out a form that's really important, if you really want to concentrate on something, minimizing distractions is important. It really taxes the frontal lobes of our brain, which is our CEO, our planning and decision making. And that's the most energy-hungry part of our brain, so we tend to get quite tired when we're multitasking a lot. Now, this is going to be very individual, because I know some people are maybe better multitaskers than others, but, just trying to think about if anything is concentrated, give it your full attention. Okay, so I think I've done enough talking for now. We're going to take a brain break, because when I work with people, I try to give them a little bit of information and then change it to try and take a rest, because when we're processing information, giving ourselves a little rest will help us to consolidate that. So I'm going to give you my sticky E/3 mindfulness meditation. So I'm trying to make things as kind of fun and different as possible so that they stick in your brain. So it's got 3 elements to it. You exhale, big sigh out by 3. Then you come into your body, you become aware of your body. And then the third E is to exhale longer than your inhale. And I'm not just kind of making these up and picking these out of the air. It's related to our vagus nerve, which is our wandering nerve. And that basically links into our parasympathetic nervous system and sends relaxation and rest and digest to our body. So you want to give it a try? Yeah? Okay. So find a nice comfortable seat. And I invite you to bring your feet flat on the floor. And just make any adjustments that you need to find your comfort. And if you feel comfortable, close your eyes or bring your gaze downwards. So just arriving. And we're going to take a lovely deep inhale and a big sigh out. Inhale deep and sigh. Again, inhale. Sigh it out. Last time. And relax. Come back to your normal breath. Become aware of your body. Sense the weight and the volume of your body sitting on the chair. Feel the connection of your body with the ground beneath you. And now I invite you to keep breathing in that nice, comfortable, rhythmic way. And just try as best you can to make your exhale that little bit longer than your inhale. Just watching the flow of your inhale and your exhale. The mind may wander, but just bring it back gently to the breath each time. And let's all take a lovely inhale together. And exhale. And come back when you're ready. Very good. Nice energy in the room now. So what we're doing there is we're training our attentional processes in our brain to be present, and also helps to invite that relaxation response, that rest and digest. Okay. So we've talked about knowledge, about knowing our brain, and now we're going to talk about challenging our brain. So we can challenge our brain by learning new activities, building our cognitive reserve, maintaining our current activities. And I'm going to talk about why sometimes people stop doing the things they love because other things get in the way that they should be doing, but actually we need to maintain the activities that help us to keep in flow. And also learning new strategies, internal and external. However, we're going to talk a little bit about computer brain training to start. And there's a very wealthy looking brain there. He's got lots of money, and I think I would be a wealthy answer to whether it works or not, or if I had €1 for every time somebody asked me if it works or not. So what is computer brain training? It's specific repetitive activities that aim, and I've underlined aim there, to augment a specific cognitive domain or general cognition. But there really is a lack of robust evidence to substantiate their claims, and ecological transfer is unclear. So what we mean by ecological transfer is that you might get very good at the game, but the impact onto your real life has not been really proven successfully as yet. But I really don't want to, I meet people in my daily practice who enjoy doing the brain training apps. And a few people have told me that they keep them sharp. So I'm not anti-brain training, it's a personal thing, but I want to emphasize that the evidence currently isn't there at the moment. I like this quote because it says, "A functional life devoid of meaning is merely existence, not living. Robots perform tasks, people engage in life activities to create and derive meaning." And this really rings true to me as an occupational therapist. What's the real meaning about the task that you're doing? These are the ones that really train your brain because they involve usually social, physical and mental health aspects. But what conditions might brain training be useful? So there was a recent kind of market research of the number of the brain training apps, and it must be relevant to real life outcomes. So you have to target a specific area. So if you know that it's your speed of processing that is your issue, you have to target that one alone. You can't be looking at targeting your brain in general. It doesn't seem to work as well. So you want to have a minimum dose of about 15 hours per targeted brain function over 8 weeks. So that's actually quite a lot of time. A lot of the studies kind of saying that brain training doesn't work. We're only about 10, 15 minutes a day. So if you're looking at about that 15 hours over 8 weeks, you're talking about 30 minutes a day at least. And continued practice for continued benefits. So if you go to the gym and you do a bicep curl and then you stop doing it, your muscle is going to not be as strong anymore. So equally, the same is thought for brain training, that you would need to keep it up long term for it to be of benefit. But as I emphasize, that brain healthy activities take many forms, and there isn't any conclusive evidence that computers are better at improving cognition than other activities like learning a new language or hobby. And the thing about it is that these are likely going to offer a social aspect as well. But does anybody here do brain training already? A few people, yeah? And, that's what I'm saying. I'm not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater on this one. I think that they have a place for some people if you know exactly what you're training. And equally, I suppose these are a few questions that I would ask people to help them to make the decision on it. So first of all, I would ask them, how long are you already spending on a computer at home or at work? And do you have capacity for more screen time? So some of the people I've been working with, they've been really keen on the brain training, but when they did a kind of an audit of how long they were on their computer, they were on it for a long time already that day. So in essence, they're not really getting out, socializing or doing the other things that we know for a fact are brain healthy activities. So there's this app called Moment, and this helps you to track how long you're on your smartphone or your tablet per day. I encourage everybody to do it just to see how long you actually are on our smartphones. Supposedly, we check our phone about 200 times a day. And yeah, it's a lot, isn't it? And we are plugged in, and I mean by plugged in that the phone is on and kind of near us. It's not necessarily that we're actually on it, but 20 hours a day. That's the average. People are plugged in for now, having their phone next to them. And as well, there's the price to brain training as well. If the evidence isn't there, you're talking about €60 at least a year to unlock the brain training apps, and some of them go up into hundreds and nearly thousands of euro. So again, as I emphasize, you need to know the brain skill that you want to train. It needs to be targeted. Ask your health profession or somebody close to you as to whether they think it would be something useful for you. And again, I emphasize this, have you thought about taking up a creative hobby instead? Because it's going to give you a full brain workout. Sharp Brains have a checklist with 10 questions to evaluate brain training. So if you are interested in buying one, I would recommend that you look at this checklist to make your decision. So lifelong learning is a really important part of Challenge, because we really need to be learning at every age. Learning doesn't stop just after we leave university. We need to continually be learning. And it should be enjoyable but stress-free, because if we create stress into the learning, we're kind of it's counterproductive. But we need to find our comfortable edge. So I use that term a lot in my yoga classes when I can see people are kind of holding back a little bit and they can maybe stretch a little bit further. And I think we all know maybe whether we're a person that overdoes it or are we somebody that holds back. And I think that's a really important question to ask yourself around any brain health activities, because we don't want it to be too stressful, but we want it to be challenging enough that the brain is getting a good workout and is getting a little bit of push, because we know that that's what happens when we create new connections and neuroplasticity in the brain. So ask yourself these questions about your current activities for your brain training. Could you give yourself an extra nudge? So you add in the blank there, whatever it is that your activity that you're doing. Could you try it a little bit differently? Yeah, I think most of us could. I definitely could as well. Any new activities that maybe you could try? Really, the brain craves novel experiences, and usually it feels a little bit uncomfortable to start. That's when we're moving out of our comfort zone, but that's when the real work is happening. So some activities that I would recommend that kind of give a full brain workout and that are evidence-based would be around photography. Dancing is a great brain workout. Any kind of crafting activities, and you could also do that in a group as well. Juggling is amazing for the brain. And drumming, I only put this one in this morning because we had a drumming workshop here yesterday on the Professionals Day, and I know that you're going to have one later as well. And it relates to our reward pathways in our brain. We get a kind of a sense of reward when we're all in synchronicity and we're working as a collective. So I really encourage you to go to the drumming workshop yesterday. It was a really great experience for me. But you need to ask yourself, are you motivated, are you interested, and will you do it? There's no point in overextending yourself and saying that you will do something and it's out with your reach. Is it pitched at the right level for your performance? Can you succeed yet be challenged? And that's a kind of a fine balance. Only you will know that yourself. And your routine, does it make a real difference to you and allow you to live within your full social context? So there are just some questions for you to reflect on. I'm going to skip on and leave you to do that one yourself afterwards because we're running a little bit out of time. And I want to really go through this visual imagery with you, a great way to train your brain and train your memory. So the modified story technique has good evidence in the treatment of MS memory impairment. It emphasizes context and visual imagery and showed improved new learning and memory for people with MS. Now, it's quite a large protocol that they use. It's over in the States. It's 10 sessions, 2 sessions a week over 5 weeks. So it's quite an intensive period. So we're going to have a little try of it today, okay, to see what it's like, to try and think about using our visual memory a little bit more. So I put up this scenario here of something that maybe I was driving to work and I don't have a pen, I don't have a piece of paper, I don't have my smartphone that I can jot it down in. I don't have a dictaphone or anything. I have to use my own memory. So I think, oh, flip, it's my mum's birthday today. I've forgotten. I'll get her some flowers. And then that sparks a memory that, oh, I should have watered that plant. And then usually when you start to think, then the should-haves, oh, I really need loo roll and coffee. So you need to remember your mum's birthday, flowers, water your plant, and buy loo roll and coffee. Now, if you're not a coffee drinker, replace that with tea, because it needs to be salient for you. It needs to be something that sticks to your brain, because if you don't drink coffee, don't worry, it won't stick in. If you don't call it loo roll, call it toilet roll, okay? So do you see what I mean? I'm trying to make it personal to me. It has to be individual to me, otherwise it won't stay in my memory. So how you're going to do this is you're going to create a mental image for each word. So you're going to visualize it in your mind. And if you try to have 2 pieces of information per image. So for the coffee, I like to drink espresso. So I would have a little espresso cup. For you, you might like a really big cappuccino. So you make a cappuccino cup. Do you see what I mean? Yeah? And if your plant, I have cactuses at home. You might have lilies or other kinds of plants. So I want you to try and let your imagination go a little bit wild. The funnier, more colourful, and the bizarre, the better. You up for trying it? Yeah? Okay. So I'm going to just give you a minute to try this. Again, you can close your eyes or you can bring your gaze downwards. And I want you to try as best you can to come up with an image with all of those in it. And try to make them like a picture. So a funny picture with all of those items in it. Okay, off you go. So those are, make them real to you. Oh, yeah, yeah. Does everybody have a story in their head? Yeah? Anybody willing to share their funny story? Makes you think about how the brain can work, how creative we can be. I'll share mine with you. Okay, so my mum is sitting there, and for some reason she's in this big wicker chair. I think it was because my nan used to sit in one and we used to have a picture, but that's why in my head that comes in. So she's sitting there, and it's her birthday, but her birthday cake is made of toilet rolls. And then she has a cactus on her head, and she's drinking an espresso. So they're all the things that I need to remember, but I have them in one image so that I can stick them in my brain. Okay, so they're all very unrelated things. And it's going to take practice. This isn't something that comes overnight. You're going to have to practice at this. And you will just imagine how your mind can actually be a lot more creative than you think. Okay. So there's an internal strategy. That's just one. There's plenty of other internal strategies that you can use to train your brain. That's one that has some evidence base in MS. So I suggest if you're going to train your brain with some internal strategies, try one at a time, and then if you've got that one, then you can add another on. Don't try too many at the same time. External strategies are things that we all use, not only people living with MS. We all use smartphones, apps, diaries these days. But if you have a diary, either a paper or on a tablet, it's shown that modified diaries work better than standard diaries. So how I mean by modified is that you make them into sections so that you kind of can write in specific sections. And one thing in particular would be important, would be a symptom section, if you can add that in. We all love notice boards and whiteboards. And if you use your smartphone, if you're interested in smartphone, the list apps are very good. And there's a really cool new app called Gnome for names. So you can use it to, especially if you're maybe starting a new job or starting kind of going to a new club, it helps you to kind of track people's names and where you've met them so that you can kind of go back into that specific section and then look up who the people are before you go. Memo watches are handy. They're a little watch and it's got about 10 seconds. So if you're on the go and you think, oh, I need to remember that, you can record it on the watch. Key finders, people find them really useful as well. So it's a little fob on your key, and if you've lost them, then you can press a button on a base station and it'll tell you where it is. I found that pill dispensers for folks as well, they really like them, so it's automatic. It'll open when it's timed to go off. But again, as I emphasised, don't overload yourself with too many gadgets or strategies. So yeah, do you have capacity for more gadgets and strategies and devices? We're living in the age of information and technology. We all have smartphones, practically most of us do anyway, and tablets. So really want to think about building awareness about the information that we're consuming, because if we're consuming a lot of information, that's going to be draining on our brain. So thinking about the quantity of information that you're consuming and the quality. Not all information is made equal. And reflecting, are you giving yourself enough time to digest the information that you're consuming? Especially if we have a health condition, we might want to know an awful lot of the information, but if we need to give ourselves time to actually reflect and digest, and what does that actually mean to me? Filtering your tech habit can be useful as well, so turning off any unnecessary notifications on your phone. So a lot of phones will do that as default, that they'll be flashing or they'll be pinging, and it will really cause your brain to be distracted. Filtering your emails is useful as well. And trying to turn your phone off at least an hour before you go to bed. I don't know, I'm not a bit guilty of this one, I must say. But the melatonin, it's our sleep hormone. You know, if we are looking at the blue screen, it's inhibiting that being released. And trying to schedule some tech-free time to let your mind wander and spark creativity. So maybe taking some time to do some of those exercises that we did there a minute ago. So I'm not going to talk too much about movement because I know you've had a presentation on this today, and I'm just reiterating that how essential it is, and it's one of the best brain training exercises that you can do is to move. And we know how essential it is in MS and for these generations of brain cells. So we're going to just quickly do a chair-based yoga sequence. So this is breath-driven movement. Do many people do yoga here already? Wow, loads of people. Brilliant. And if you have any issues, you know, that you don't want to participate, that's totally fine as well. I should have said that at the start. Don't feel that you need to participate at any point. So what we're going to simply do, and it's just to bring ourselves back into our body, our present moment, is to raise our arms up on the inhale and down on the exhale. Do that again. Inhale up. Exhale down. Inhale, fingertips to shoulder. Exhale down. Inhale, fingertips to shoulder. Exhale down. Inhale, hands to prayer. Exhale, point fingers away. Inhale, hands to prayer. Point fingers away. Okay, so we're just going to do a few minutes of that. We repeat each movement twice. We get into a nice flow and get into the zone. And if you want to challenge yourself, closing your eyes would help with that. Okay. So, inhaling, arms up. Exhale. Again, in. Exhale. Inhale, fingertips to shoulders. Exhale down. Fingertips to shoulders. Inhale, hands to heart. Exhale, fingers point away. Inhale, hands to heart. Exhale, fingers point away. Start again. Inhale. Exhale. Fingertips to shoulders. Exhale, release. Inhale, fingertips to shoulders. Exhale, release. Inhale, hands to heart. Exhale, fingers point away. Inhale, hands to heart. Exhale, fingers point away. Last time. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, down. Inhale up. Exhale, down. Inhale, fingertips to shoulders. Exhale, down. Inhale, fingertips to shoulders. Exhale, down. Inhale, hands to heart. Fingers away. Inhale, hands to heart. Very good. Just allow yourself to rest. Bring your eyes, gaze downwards or your eyes closed just for a moment. Just feel your body. Let's take a lovely deep inhale together and big sigh out. We listen to our own body's intelligence. When we come in from work, we get our bag, dump them. I'm so tired. So it's our own body telling us that sends a relaxation response to our body when we do that big sigh out. So yoga therapy and MS, there's really exciting emerging research in yoga therapy that it positively impacts a lot of areas with MS, including overall well-being, physical function, mood, quality of life, fatigue management, physical pain, depression, bladder management, and in particular cognition, in particular attention. The possible mechanisms for yoga therapy in MS may include reduced markers of inflammation and optimized immune function, but the research is really in its infancy and there's a lot more need to be done. But even by judging for the amount of people here today that are doing yoga, it's obviously making a benefit to your life. So I'd advise you to speak to your doctor or your physio before starting, just as Trish was saying earlier on. And also maybe trying a modified yoga class to begin. So maybe the MS Ireland yoga class or a yoga therapy class. So the last way we can kind of train our brain is to train our brain to calm down. Stress is inevitable, especially in this, this world of information and overload. But we really need to avoid chronic stress at all costs, and we know the impact that stress can have on relapses in MS. Stress is toxic to our neurons, so it really affects that memory center, that hippocampus. So we need to think about finding your way to build resilience to stress and building a toolbox of stress busters. So everybody in here will be different and find their different toolbox, but it's really important to spend some time thinking about that. Your flow activities are really important, and that's when we're being completely involved in the activity for its own sake. And we can look to children for information on flow. You know, when they kind of get into a playing game and they lose concept of time, they lose concept of themselves, they're just in the moment and they're doing it. And I think as adults we can kind of tend to deprioritize these. And I've often found working with people with health conditions that they can deprioritize these as well, because they're maybe trying to manage their health and then they're trying to do the healthy activities that the physio wants them to do or the OT recommended, and they maybe stop doing their gardening. But the gardening was the one thing that they kind of lost themselves in. So your flow activities are really, really important. So for some people it might be running or walking, another person it might be reading, having a lovely long bath and losing time there. For a lot of people I meet it's gardening. If they like gardening, they find that that's where their real therapy is. So I encourage you, if there's anything that you stopped doing that you really would like to re-engage in, maybe consider that. Mindfulness meditation. Many people do mindfulness here. Okay, great. So other meditations? Anybody do other? Brilliant. Mindfulness in particular has been well evidenced in MS, and I do a few different types of meditation as well. So I'm open to different types. I'm not just advocating mindfulness. I think all meditation is good for you. It's about finding your meditation. Similarly to it's finding your physical activity. It has to be personal. So it's training our brains to be in the present moment with a non-judgmental acceptance. So the benefits in MS indicate that it may improve sleep, coping, well-being, decrease fatigue, depression, anxiety, stress and pain. And it's been delivered, there's usually about an 8-week program called the MBSR, or sometimes 6-week programs, and they've been delivered in lots of different ways and still have been shown to be effective. So even if you live somewhere rural, you still could maybe benefit from a Skype consultation or on the phone. The tech for meditation, I think, is going to really implode over the next few years. There's various wearables and apps out there that help you to monitor your stress levels. One in particular that's quite popular in Ireland at the minute is called a PIP. So it's between your thumb and your index finger, and it relates then to your smartphone. And it's basically working on the sweat glands in the skin, which relates to our levels of stress. We know we sweat more when we're stressed. So when you're using the PIP, then you can be playing a game, for example, to try and help you to reduce your stress levels down. So you're getting that biofeedback. The second one then that I think is going to get really big in the market over the next few years is the Muse. So it's a wearable that comes across the forehead and is basically monitoring your brainwave activity. Again, it links into your smartphone and it's giving you feedback as to how you're calming down, and it's a really effective app. So then, and there's probably going to be a lot more on the market over the next few years. I think the price will come way down for them. If you're interested in meditation apps, there's ones like Headspace, which is quite evidence-based, which gives you a program then to work on if you're interested in learning how to meditate. So I just want to quickly talk about goals, because I know there's been a lot of information here today, not from myself and from others. So I want to think about how you're actually going to formulate some of the information and move forward with it, because we can get a lot of information, but how do we know where to start? So I want you to just have a little think about these questions, about your roles, because these are good questions to start when we're thinking about, well, what's really meaningful? What should I really start with? So, what roles, are you having any difficulties with any of your key roles in your life? Your routine is, what's a typical day, week look like for you? And are you having any challenges with planning your routine and organization? Habits, we've talked a lot today about healthy habits, and I know Sabine is going to talk a lot more about brain healthy habits. So maybe thinking about what helpful habits you have already in place, or maybe some unhelpful habits that you might want to look at impacting. So, and as well, when you're thinking about your goals over the next few days after this conference, try and take some time again to visualize yourself, just like we did earlier on with the kind of the funny image, but this time see yourself achieving your goal. We know that from a neuroscience point of view that visualization is really important. So use that to help yourself to motivate yourself to move forward. So these are other questions that you can use then as well when you're thinking about setting your goal. So what do I need to do to reach this goal? What might get in the way? Usually we don't anticipate things that are going to get in the way. We kind of have a little bit of an optimism bias when we decide on something. We think, yes, I'm going to go to the gym every day for the next 2 months. And then a week later, it's too cold or I can't be bothered. So we need to think about it being realistic and what might get in the way of reaching your goal. What resources do you have to help me reach this goal, and helping overcoming obstacles and achieving it? So if you want to make your goal SMART, you want to look at it being specific, measurable, attainable, relevant and time-bound. So it needs to be specific to you. You need to know how to measure it so that when you've done it, you know you've achieved it. It needs to be attainable, so you need to be able to achieve it. There's no point in saying, I'm going to be walk on the moon next year. It's not attainable to me, It needs to be something that's relevant to me as well, and it needs to be time-bound. When we give ourselves a time frame, it helps us to keep motivated. So, for example, a poor goal would be, today I will start to meditate. A SMART goal might be, I will meditate for 3 minutes every second day by next Saturday. So I'd like you to just maybe take a few moments just to reflect on what's the real thing that's sticking out in your mind from all of the information that you've heard already today. And how can you maybe make a SMART goal for your brain health? And then maybe just to start that process happening right now. And I encourage you to take the information that you're going to get from the whole day and maybe spending a little bit of time on Monday or Tuesday, just even a half an hour, to review the information that you've got and to set a SMART goal using the specific, measurable, attainable, relevant and time-bound. So just to end, I really just want to emphasize a few of the key points that if you take anything from today and this presentation that I think are the most important. That making it sticky in your brain for people who are struggling with their memory, that's the most important thing to do, is to making it fun and novel, interesting and possibly silly. It usually will stick in the brain when it's got that. Finding out where your comfort zone is and trying to edge your way out of it with your activities. So considering the activities that you're already doing, can you change them and make them a little bit more different, make them a little bit more novel? That's a great brain training. And equally, trying new activities as well. And adding in a movement component, a socializing component, so that you're getting a full brain workout. And then as well, I love this picture where the brain is there having a rest. He's having a nice palm tree. So he's having a break, and I think it's really important to give your brain a break each day and scheduling that in. You know, it could be just 2-3 minutes of sitting and breathing. It could be going for a walk in the park. It's about finding your brain break activity. So although we've been talking a lot about things that can train your brain and boost your brain health, it's also important to give your brain a break from all of the information that we are processing. So finally, I just really want to thank you all for listening. It's been an absolute pleasure to be here again. And I really wish you all a very brain healthy life, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.